Next on Wildlife Emergency,
He's a fuzzy little thing.
rehabilitators try to help an orphaned baby vulture that thinks he's a human.
People who find them think, you know, he's so cute, and then they have a big old vulture on their hands.
And doctors struggle to give a swan the gift of sight
Just got some blood.
and flight.
Okay, try to fly behind the ultralights in another week or so.
Run into radiology.
We got a problem here. We have the opportunity to give these animals a second chance.
But he's a little one.
He's a very small one.
Nice, strong heartbeat.
He's very handsome.
With wildlife, humans are a big part of the problem, and I just want to try to be part of the solution.
Turn it up a lot more.
You not only need to read the mind of your coworkers, you need to read the mind of your patient.
We got 5 minutes to go before we hit 3 hours.
To save a wild animal's life and get it back into the wild, that's what it's all about.
At the Wildlife Center of Virginia, the animals brought in needing emergency care sometimes bear no physical injury.
Hi, how are you?
Me.
This is the baby vulture.
Okay. So what happened?
He was found by a person whose dog had chased him.
Okay.
He was then transferred to a bird rehabber that wasn't able to bring him down here, and then me.
Hi, sweetie.
Here, this orphan will receive a special kind of foster care.
Oh, he's a fuzzy little thing.
That's the problem. People who find them think, you know, he's so cute, and let's try to raise him, and then they have a big old vulture on their hands.
In just a month, the vulture will lose all his downy fluff and become a big, carrion-eating scavenger.
Of course, at that point, anyone would soon know that this isn't something they would want in their home. And he becomes an animal that's kind of stuck between two worlds. He's no longer wild and able to take care of himself on his own, yet he can't live a life as a human pet either.
Because people were his first caretakers, the vulture has imprinted on humans, thinking that they are his parents and that he is a human.
I'll give him some fluids first, since he's dehydrated. It's okay, buddy.
If this baby is ever to grow into a normal adult and be released, it now becomes essential to provide him with a role model of his own species as soon as possible. Fortunately, there is an older vulture at the center who can teach the baby what being a vulture is all about.
The baby vulture is up here in one of the
The
sea
baby
pens.
vulture is up here next to Edgar the Raven.
By placing the two vultures together, Dr. Ned and Dr. Tracy will give the baby a second chance to develop normally.
There's the baby. Baby vulture, I've got a friend for you. Well, they're not fighting, so I take that as a good sign. The baby's being real submissive, doing his droopy feather shake. Be friends. Make nice.
At least look at him, kind of listen to him, see what he does.
Hear that?
Yeah.
While the survival of the baby vulture depends on its ability to wean itself from humans, at an airfield 10 hours away in upstate New York, the survival of these trumpeter swans depends on their ability to imprint on humans. Guided by Gavin Shire, lead biologist for the Trumpeter Swan Restoration Project, these birds are being taught to migrate south in winter.
When swans migrate, they don't do it by instinct. They do it by being shown by their parents in their first year, and they memorize the route as they fly over it. So what we're doing is we're taking on the role of surrogate parents, training them to fly behind an ultralight, and then leading them on a migration exactly as their parents would in the wild. And later on, they'll teach their offspring the route that we taught them. It's about 350 miles from here to the Chesapeake Bay. Before they hatch, we play the tape recording of the ultralight because they're able to hear inside the egg. And they'll follow us wherever we go.
Without parents to guide them, these youngsters are being trained to learn a migration route that their ancestors once knew, long ago.
There haven't been trumpeter swans on the East Coast for almost 200 years. They were shot almost to extinction by early settlers.
Among this small colony of swans was a bird that biologist Gavin noticed was rapidly failing. And a closer examination revealed the problem.
She was totally blind, and as a wild bird, she would have been eaten by a fox within a day. And then the plane has a big propeller on the back, and if you can't see that, sooner or later you're going to end up flying into it. Also, the birds have a pecking order on the ground, and they also have a flying order in the air, and they have to know their place. And if you can't see your place, you can't be a part of that order.
The bird, which was discovered to have cataracts in both eyes, was taken to Springfield, Virginia, to be seen by Dr. Seth Koch, well known by all of us at the Wildlife Center as a skilled ophthalmologist. He volunteered to perform the operation that could restore the bird's eyesight. Though the complicated eye operation, the first of its kind, will be perilous, without it, the bird would lose all chance to join the planned migration.
Good. Come on, Tiger. Let's give us a second here.
At one of the Wildlife Center's outdoor pens, Sarah checks up on the baby vulture to see whether his relationship with humans has been replaced with a new one, with the adult vulture. First, his physical development is checked.
2 kilos. You're huge.
Now, his behavior must be assessed.
Appears to be working. He's not doing the running toward people as much as he did before. He'll interact with the adult. There you go. There haven't been any squabbles, there haven't been any fights, there hasn't been any bloodshed, so leaning toward the fact that maybe they're getting along just fine.
As the weeks go by, the bird looks more and more like a vulture.
There he is. He's probably 3/4 feathers and only 1/4 baby fuzz right now. Oh, yeah.
But to determine if he still thinks he's a human, Dr. Ned checks on his progress.
That's great. He just ran away from me to be near the adult. That's a great sign.
If, over the next month, the baby doesn't continue learning to identify with the adult, he can never be released back to the wild. Two hours from the center, at a veterinary facility in Springfield, Virginia, Dr. Ned and I join ophthalmologist Dr. Koch, who will perform cataract surgery on the blind trumpeter swan.
This is Ned Gentz.
Dr. Ned will assist in the operation, as will Dr. Patty Bright, who made the initial diagnosis.
Well, this was a bird that I saw down at Airlie a couple of weeks ago that the caretakers and Gavin, who's the main biologist down there, was complaining that this bird appeared to be blind. It seemed to be having some problem following the flock. And as you probably know, they're teaching these birds to fly behind the ultralight. So this is a bird that seemed to be getting a little too close to the ultralight and seemed to be having some vision problems.
Biologist Gavin and Dr. Ned bring the bird into the operating room.
Straight ahead.
The other bird's easy.
Like concerned parents, Gavin and research assistant Stephanie are present in the operating room.
Yeah, she can barely see at all anymore.
She's going to struggle a little bit. She doesn't like being held, doesn't like the smell.
Are the cataracts in both eyes?
Yes.
When you look at the eye, you can actually see the white cataract there very easily.
You can see the bag going in and out now as she takes a breath.
Trumpeter swans are terribly sensitive to anesthesia, and in fact, putting the bird under may be almost as dangerous to it as the operation itself.
What's she on now?
Mindful of the difficulties, our own Dr. Ned and Dr. Olson will monitor the bird's response to the anesthetic at every stage.
Why don't you grab that? It's okay. I'll just keep her head here. All right, I've got her, Gavin, if you want to.
Okay, can we move her? Can we move her just a little bit more? Yes, you getting it? Good. Great. The problem is we got to have the pupil dilated. If I don't have the pupil widely dilated.
She's down pretty far because she's not breathing very well right now.
I got a half dilated pupil and I have a third eyelid coming up.
Birds have 3 eyelids, an upper, a lower, and a third one on the side that continues to blink even after general anesthesia. To control this reflex, the team must temporarily paralyze this muscle. The question is, what drug to use? and at what dose. Because this surgery is so unusual, it's back to the textbooks for an answer.
I think that's what's used, yeah.
The vecuronium dose is 1 mg per eye, or 2 drops.
Yeah, we could try pancuronium topically. I've never done that.
How the bird will respond to this powerful eye drug simply isn't known, but the team must do something or the surgery won't be possible.
There's a published dose anywhere. It's in here. Oh yeah?
I just got the third eyelid out of the way with speculum.
Finally, the way is clear for the surgery to begin.
Okay. Let's go. Come over on this side.
Tell me when.
Can you hold it there? Yes?
Mm-hmm.
And what this is it irrigates and at the same time it aspirates.
As Dr. Koch begins to open up the surface of the lens of the eye and flush the cataract out, he runs into difficulty because the fragments are too large.
There's some solid pieces. So we're going to set up the phacoemulsifier and see if we can aspirate.
I've already got it ready to plug in.
The phacoemulsification is the state-of-the-art cataract surgery. 48,000 cycles per second, and it chops up the lens, and it's like a jackhammer, and we just bring it all out.
And give me some clues here. Going straight down, you are going to phaco, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to set it up, and we're going to prime and the whole 9 yards.
Okay, since
Even at 25.
incision's now 3 millimeters.
Hey, could you open that for me there?
It was full open.
Go ahead.
Okay, you hear me?
I'm
Since
down. What do you need?
the incision is now 3 millimeters.
Okay.
You need phaco.
Okay, got it.
Employing ultrasound technology, the phacoemulsifier will rapidly break up tissue so the cataracts, reduced to more manageable pieces, can be pulled out.
Can somebody pull this third eyelid out of the way so I can see that I've got it all the way out of the way? Just pull it out of the way. Good. Okay, since we're out of this eye, sutures.
Okay, sutures are
Phaco's the way to go on the other eye.
Okay. Sutures are there. Let me get your tray up here.
The procedure has worked well on the first eye, and now Dr. Koch prepares to stitch up the incision.
Okay, this is about 1/9 the diameter of sewing thread, and my 58-year-old eyes have a real tough time seeing it without the scope. So bear with me. If you can get that out of the way, I appreciate it somehow.
Instrument there too.
Yeah.
1-1.
Okay. So how's the cornea suture? Good?
I'll tell you after I'm done.
While Dr. Koch prepares to work on the second eye, the team is concerned that anesthesia levels may be endangering the bird's life.
Okay. He's been under anesthesia now for 45 minutes.
How long?
45 minutes?
Really? Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
My job only took 10. The anesthesia people took longer.
We have the hard job.
That's right.
This is true.
Okay, let's turn her over.
Catheter in, so let me have all those.
Says.
Okay, now you need more anesthetic?
Yes.
Okay.
You ready? Was she doing well at that percentage that we had?
Well, she's starting to get light, so let's move her back up to maybe about 2.5 right now, at least to get the surgery started.
Okay, Sins, let's go. You go. That's it. Good.
Though the procedure on the second eye is nearly concluded,
IA, Sins.
there are still risks along the way.
Just got some blood. It bled inside the eye. So we can try some urokinase, Sin. Do we have any here?
I think it's all in Silver Spring. I'll double check real quick, but
What's called TPA and breaks up blood clots. But we don't have any at this office.
He's all right for you? Okay, because he's starting to get light.
That's fine.
Okay, just leave him.
did you tell him the hardest part of the surgery is staying doing without your coffee?
The hardest part of cataract surgery is sitting here waiting to have the first cup of coffee for the day.
Here, right there.
What do you want to do here?
I'm just rinsing it. Yeah, we have a blood clot in here that I think will settle out. It was conjunctival.
They'll wait. could wake up.
Okay.
We won't.
With the bleeding under control, the operation is over.
Okay, then go to 0.
Okay,
Off
I'll be right
anesthetic
back. I'm
completely.
getting a cup of coffee.
All right.
That was 1 hour and 15 minutes.
I think we're going to be successful. At least I'm sure we're going to be successful in one eye. Hopefully we'll be successful in 2. So that's great. Yeah.
1 hour and 15 minutes that we were under anesthesia.
Now, as Dr. Ned and Dr. Olson bring down the level of anesthesia, the question remains, will the bird wake up?
Do you want to try another count?
No, we're gonna bypass the cap.
Is he off, Glenn?
He's off anesthetic, yeah. So she's coming around. Where's Gavin? Why don't you step in where I am, so you can grab the bird if she starts to wake up.
There he comes.
She's coming up.
She's coming up.
Okay, looks good. Okay. Yeah, okay, you're starting to wake up, you're starting to move your head around. She's still not able to fully control her head.
Okay, Tiger, go fly behind the ultralights in another week or so, huh?
She knows where the feathers are.
That's right.
With the operation successfully concluded, the swan is brought back for convalescence to the site where it was hatched in Warrenton, Virginia.
Definitely irritating, huh?
Yeah. She's had an incision made through her cornea, so sure she's going to hurt and be uncomfortable. But that should be better within probably about 48 hours.
Always a good sign when they're well enough to eat.
Yeah.
As soon as she is able to see well enough that she can identify other birds, then we'll just integrate her back in with the flock.
While the bird will recover from the pain of surgery within days, it will be weeks before it's known if the bird can see again.
Are you hungry?
Back at the center, Sarah, Dr. Ned, and Dr. Julie prepare to give one final chance to the young vulture,
Just a little sociable.
who has now spent 8 weeks here, to see if he has overcome his early imprinting on humans. If he doesn't pass the test, he'll spend the remainder of his life in captivity. Though he has come to resemble his surrogate father in appearance, he still may think he's a human.
The adult is much more nervous by our presence here in the flay cage. He's pacing. He's obviously an agitated bird. The youngster seems just perfectly content to have us in here and not particularly upset at all.
Well, it seems to me like he can't make up his mind who he prefers, the people or the other vulture.
Heads up. I don't want to give up on him yet.
So, another tactic must be tried.
Why don't we make one big vulture pen and give him a family group? Vultures are social animals, so to even more closely simulate what we want this baby to do in the wild, we have another vulture here. So instead of giving him only one role model, we're going to make a family group and give him 2 adults to emulate.
Vultures without getting barfed on.
Okay, guys, you get the big pen now.
Look, he's gonna be hard to catch out of
Though the adult flies quickly to join his fellow vulture,
here. There you go.
the baby isn't so sure he wants to be part of the group.
The test, as opposed to medical, as in many of our cases, is strictly behavioral. He has to prefer the company of these 2 adult vultures to us, or else he could get in trouble. When he's released, he could end up on somebody's front porch begging for food, and we can't allow that to happen. We'll leave all 3 vultures here for maybe a week and try to minimize human contact to let them establish some kind of a hierarchy and relationship amongst themselves. That's what I want to see. 3 happy vultures.
Now, doubling his chances to be released, the little vulture may yet be saved.
I'm still very hopeful.
Returned to his training program in upstate New York, the swan, who had cataract surgery to restore its sight, has been on a long road to recovery.
She was able to open one eye later that day, but the second eye, I think it was the left eye, remained closed for the next 2 days. but she was able to make out the pools, which are a bright blue, vivid blue. And then one day, very unexpectedly, she had some kind of seizure. And after that, she was left completely paralyzed on one side. And we're not sure whether it was a reaction to trauma or to the anesthetic. And we thought that she may not actually live. But she's a very, it shows what a strong, determined bird she is. She recovered from that, and after a few days was able to walk a little lopsided and had a limp, but it took about another 2 weeks before she was no longer drooping the wing. And now we've reintroduced her to the flock, and she's back in the social order, which is great. So we have high hopes that she'll be able to be released in the end.
The baby bird has grown up and successfully bonded with his fellow vultures. And so, at the top of a mountain in Virginia, staffer Pat Harkins and husband Tom, a volunteer who specializes in handling large birds, prepare for a group release.
We'll tip them both the same, and they should get the idea of the baby to fly with the adult. There he goes. Get the other adult out. Come on, baby.
Clearly, the baby vulture needs a bit of encouragement to seek the company of his own species. Then, he gets a little too close.
Well, I guess she knows where her adult friend is. He landed right on top of him. Now he's just trying to get his sea legs about him, I guess.
A little bit different from the cage
The cage
perspective.
that it's been in. Yeah.
The sky beckons, but the vulture isn't yet ready for flight.
Sometimes you just have to wait on these guys. They take their time until they can get their confidence up.
Oh, go.
A hop. There he goes.
Oh, yay.
Look, oh, he took the dive. And off he went. It's almost a religious experience to me. Soaring around.
Today, for the first time, biologist Gavin will ground test the bird, which has had eye surgery, to see if it can follow behind his airplane and resume flight training with the rest of the flock. If all goes well, the swan may yet be able to join the planned migration to the Chesapeake Bay. The swan, which is blind no longer, is able to pursue the ultralight.
Today was the first time she actually got off the ground, so that was very exciting to see. If all goes well, she'll be flying with the plane and migrating.
Her brothers and sisters are nearly ready to begin the long journey. And if her recovery continues as expected, the swan that once couldn't see at all may be able to join them.
We're hoping that in a month's time they will be strong enough and have learned to fly well with the plane that we can actually lead them, and they'll be the first trumpeter swans to do this traditional migration route for close to 200 years.